Hey guys, Drifter here. I'm sure by now many of you have seen the Zombies in Spaceland trailer, which is going to be the official bonus mode for Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. It's set in a theme park in the 1980s, and it is about 100% bananas, one of the craziest looking zombies maps that I have ever seen. And as a fan of 1980s stuff, and especially 1980s horror movies, this was right up my alley. I know a lot of people have already done breakdowns of this gun and Pack-a-Punch and Perkaholic and all this kind of other stuff that is actually gameplay affecting, but today I wanted to do something special and highlight all of the secret movies and 1980s references that many of you may have missed, because I'm going to tell you, just like the Michael Myers map and the Call of Duty Ghost DLC, this trailer is chock full of secret Easter eggs. So without any further ado, let's dive on in. The very first little Easter egg reference is from the park itself. Spaceland is almost certainly based off of Space Mountain at Disney World. You can see very obvious similarities here, and it works very well because Space Mountain is this sort of 80s retro future space ride. Even a lot of the rides themselves look the same. The next 80s reference is a little bit less obvious. You can see we have Blankfall 2 Caverns here in the arcade, and it has an Activision logo. Well, that's actually the logo of Pitfall 2 Lost Caverns, which was an Activision game released way back in the day. This is some gameplay of Pitfall 2 Lost Caverns, and do keep in mind, this is way before video games were popular. They made this on roughly the same technology that Pong was made. Thankfully, graphics have improved since then. The next reference I'm going to be using screenshots for because it's very brief. You can see that there's all this green goo coming up from the manhole covers here, and I'm almost 100% certain that this is a reference to CHUD, or CHUD 1, 2, or 3, which I guess you could call a 1980s zombie movie about these underground mutant zombie things that come up through the manhole covers and drag people underground. I'm going to go ahead and show you a trailer here so you get an idea of what I'm talking about.
And unlikely to bring anyone down there. So... they're coming up. CHUD. CHUD.
There are special zombies as well. You can see this guy with the red jacket, and you'll see him again later on in the boombox scene in the background with the red jacket. He looks astonishingly like Michael Jackson in Thriller, and even more so like Michael Jackson after he's turned into a zombie in Thriller. So we're not just doing movie references, we're also doing music and pop culture references as well. In the final stand scene, you can see the nerd character Poindexter using a very unusual, I guess you could call it energy hose type weapon that is almost certainly based off of the proton packs from Ghostbusters. Next up, we actually have an early 90s reference. In the same final stand scene, you can see that they're standing in front of some sort of crazy looking portal. If you're a fan of Stargate, Stargate SG-1, Stargate U, Stargate Atlantis, this should be immediately recognizable as the portal from Stargate, but in case you haven't seen those, I'm going to play a little clip for you. As far as culture references goes, we have clothing, we have hairstyles, we have a ton of stuff, but we also have boomboxes, which look kind of like monkey bombs. They make the zombies breakdance, and boomboxes were a very popular thing in the 1980s because we had no MP3 players, no CD players, no portable music, so people would buy these large cassette players. They would roughly be carryable on their shoulders and walk around town playing their music so that they could listen to it on the go and kind of blast it to others as a fashion statement. Moving along, my absolute favorite reference from this entire thing is the Klowns Zombies. The Klowns Zombies also look a lot like Killer Klowns from Outer Space, which was a little indie movie from 1988. It's considered one of those bad or terrible movies that's funny to watch just because of how insane it is, but I thought it was really cool that they included it in this game, and I'm going to go ahead and play a quick reference clip for you. I'm gonna have to give a shout out to Reddit for the next one. The nerd character Poindexter is a stereotype of 1980s nerds. Now, I know a lot of you get the other stereotypes of Sally the Valley Girl and the jock and that sort of stuff, but you gotta remember, nerdy culture was very much so something to be ashamed of in the 1980s, and they had this very sort of over-the-top stereotype, which is actually what the angry video game nerd based his character and dressed and mannerisms off to. So shout out to Reddit user Brown Baby Eater, which is a terrible name, and I very seriously consider not giving you credit in this episode because of that name, but gotta give credit where credit is due. It's just a stereotype from the 1980s that has been phased out that not a lot of people currently recognize. If you watch carefully during the little segments of melee combat, you will see that Sally the Valley Girl is actually able to use psychic or psionic energy to push zombies away with her hands in this little green wave instead of using any sort of melee weapon. It was a very unusual choice to give her psychic powers, but I believe that was a reference to Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. In this version of Friday the 13th, Jason squares off a little against a girl who has psychic powers, and you can see her there on the cover with the eye. But I just have to show you how crazy this was, and I don't know why people thought this would make for a good movie. The disco ball scene was a very clear reference to John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever. One thing I can say about the 80s is that they were very self-aware, and they had a lot of sort of retro stuff coming on from the 50s and 70s. We also have a very kind of obscure one here. You'll notice that there are meteors that fall and hit the map. They don't really look like airstrikes to me. They look like meteors, and it reminds me a lot of the movie Night of the Comet, which was a slightly later 80s movie, but it was the only 80s movie I could think of that actually featured meteors and comets and all that sort of stuff. It like turns people into zombies, which is kind of goofy, but was not altogether a bad movie. In the very last scene of the trailer, you can see the DJ spinning his mixtapes here and dancing. That DJ is David Hasselhoff, and he's wearing his iconic clothes from the 1980s TV series Knight Rider, basically hamming it up, playing that same character and going back in that retro feel. Just thought you guys should be aware of that. And we have one final reference today. This one goes to Reddit user O'Lukey. The Fate and Fortune cards look astonishingly similar to these Faust posters here. I'm not sure if it's the same artwork, same designer, whatever, but definitely a reference to that. Guys, that's the end of the 1980s references for this video. I'm going to go ahead and play the full trailer at the end so you can kind of see them live and in action so that I'm not making stuff up. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something useful or at least fun. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.
MC Bust Your Ass coming at you.
Welcome to the dork side.
Normally I'd say fight me, but like, let's not do that.
Why were clowns invited? No one likes clowns.
Zombies in Spaceland.
Pre-order and get the terminal bonus map and the Zombies in Spaceland pack.
These kids are killing it, folks. Literal.